team is from Uganda on an exchange visit to the different wildlife management areas in Tanzania. The son of the peasant happens to be part and parcel of the trip.
With an idea of involving communities which are living with wildlife in those particular areas to manage, first to manage wildlife, but then to benefit from that particular resource. You know, if you tell somebody just to manage a resource and is not benefiting, okay, there are some benefits that are indirect. For instance, you tell people, you know, you see this dispensary, you see this hospital, you see these roads. It's because of the wildlife in the wild. But tangible benefits at their fingertips are not seen. It's very difficult to convince people. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have very few protected areas, but much of the wildlife are outside protected area. So how do you manage this wildlife outside and make people benefit from that? It's when we said we have to come up with a style, a programmed kind of form of managing this wildlife. It's when we came up with an idea of having community wildlife management areas. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Randilen means Wathog. It is a Maasai name, mean Wathog. And why Wathog? Of course, we have a hill on the core area of Randilen WMA. There's a lot of Wathog there. So we named the area the name of Wathog because of the population of the Wathog we have in the area. This is a youngest WMA among the 21 WMA registered. And it was gazetted in the year 2013. And it covers 312 kilometers square. And our area is situated in Tarangire Manyara ecosystem. Tarangire Manyara ecosystem is a very paramount area for wildlife migratory, especially elephant, from Tarangire National Park to Manyara National Park, and sometime to Ngorongoro National Park. So our area is key for wildlife dispersals area, but again it's a key for pastoral community because 95% of the local community here are pastoralists. And the members of this piece of land are 8 villages, and the population of that villages, we have about 20,000 people plus. So you can see the population is not such much smaller. And again, in our area, of course, we have a lot of wildlife, especially these big 5, excluding rhino. So today, Randilen is trying to play a role of bringing the community to the point of conservation and addresses the issue of benefit sharing. And what do we mean by, say, benefit sharing in this, what we call it, community-based conservation? We have what we call it a theory of change. One theory of change, we are talking about ownership. The concept of ownership, the community to feel they own the wildlife, is one concept. But the second concept, the issue of managing. They have to manage the wildlife themselves. That is the second concept. But the last concept, the issue of benefit. They have to benefit. We have three key activities. One, protection. We are protecting the area because without protection, all of these natural resources will disappear. And I just want to say, from the point of historical background, before the year 2013, before the establishment of this piece of land, of course there is a lot of challenges. One being poaching. Poaching was high. A lot of what we call it illegal offtake of natural resources has been happening here, killing lion for commercial purposes, but again bushmeats. But again the issue of cutting down trees for charcoal manufacturing. So a lot of overgrazing, no good management of rangelands. So the area was like completely destroyed. And today, after having this Randilen WMA with protection, working together with the rangers, with the community, you can see restoration coming up. And perhaps later on you will see a lot of wildlife inside of this piece of land. So that is one activities we're doing here. Of course, the protection officer will talk much about how are they doing the protection, starting from the community level and to the WMA level.
Yes, we're working with different organizations here. We are working with Tarangire National Park. We have a neighbor. We have a neighbor in these directions, and then we are working with TAWA, Tanzania Wildlife Management Authority. Again, we are working with a district level, Monduli district. What we're doing here, sometimes it might happen outside problems like animal attack by poachers or other issues which is illegal, and then we just share it together to make sure that all of the issues working well. Again, sometimes we're working with the community because this is the community land. So different reports and other issues, they are being reported by the community people. It might be a poaching or it might be a human and wildlife conflicts. We are going there to those posts or to those areas to help them and to make sure that the community happy for doing those issues because they know that we have been here for them for several times and a lot. In other issues, what we're doing here to make sure that because we have the investors here inside, we have lodges. So there is tourist activities done here, like here, as I mentioned, these lodges or for those working tourists. We make them that are well secured during the activities by posting those rangers who are full armed to make sure that dangerous animals are not be attacked there.
But again, we have what we call it rangelands management. Why rangeland management? Of course, the area is for wildlife and livestock. I repeat again because I know there is a big challenge. If at all you try to cut the interest of the pastoralists to graze within their land. So here we are doing a rangeland management. And the concept of that is to make the wildlife, the livestock, to enjoy the grasses here in a good manner. And again, we'll tell you how are we managing the issue of rangelands, starting from a grazing plant to uprooting what we call it invasive plants.
Hizo zinatoka kwenye vijiji 8 zilizounda WMA.
Livestock committee formed by representative from each village,
ambao wanatoka wawili kila kijiji,
and each village represented by 2 people.
Majukumu ya kamati,
responsibility of the committee,
ni kufanya doria ndani ya hifadhi kwenye nyanda za malisho,
patrol to the grazing area inside the WMA,
kuhakikisha ng'ombe wote wanakuwa kwenye block moja,
to ensure all the cattle are properly directed to the right blocks.
Kwenye nyanda za malisho tumegawagawa.
Grazing rangelands has been divided in blocks.
Kwenye kila block ina siku zake za kukaa mifugo,
and each block there is time to cattle to stay to graze.
Kuepukana kwamba mtu anaamua kupeleka ng'ombe anavyotaka, sasa tukaamua kuweka kwa sehemu moja ili mtu asifuate majani kama anavyotaka.
And the aim of this is to control grazing properly.
Na kuhakikisha pia majukumu yake kwamba hakuna wahamiaji wanaoingia bila idhini.
And again to ensure that no livestock intruders.
Pia kwenye kamati kuna waratibu,
and within the committee there is coordinators,
ambao wao wanakusanya data kwenye nyanda za malisho,
and their responsibility is to collect the data from the rangelands
na kufuatilia maendeleo ya nyanda za malisho kama kuna mmea vamizi,
and monitoring the rangelands if there is invasive plants,
na kuwasilisha ofisini kwa manager,
and present to the management,
na kuhakikisha kufunga nyanda za malisho wakati wa malisho, kuna kufunga na kufungua.
And also the committee is close and open the season for grazing.
Kwa hiyo wao wanakuja kutana na kufanya kikao na kuamua kufunga na kufungua
season of grazing and going out.
Opening the season and closing the season of grazing.
When he raised me, I said, me, I'm going to Mboya right now. No, you first come to the division and we talk.
Mzee, wewe mnataka mnipikichane.
Na kutoa taarifa kama kuna kitu chochote kinachoendelea kwenye nyanda za malisho,
And the report about the rangelands.
kurudisha kwenye vijiji walivyotoka.
And again report to the villages.
Hayo ndio majukumu ya kamati kwa ufupi.
So that is the responsibility of the committee.
Kama kuna swali.
Of course, we have tourism here. And how are we doing tourism? We have a finance person who will tell you about the finances and describe our business's model, how the business is being running here, starting from tourism and other revenue streams.
The main duties that finance deal with is to ensure that all the assets for these WMA are well taken care. And for issues pertaining to finance, we have a stream of revenue. And one stream of revenue being tourism. And that is the main source of revenue that you are really depending as a Randilen WMA. But again, the second source of revenue is a private sector, or we can call them donors. That is another part that you really depend as a Randilen WMA to count it as a source of revenue. Private sectors, or we can call them partners. The other source of revenue that we may count as Randilen WMA, we call it other revenues, like fines, because we have bylaws here inside, whereby we charge people who went against the laws or the bylaws that we have. We charge them some fines. So there's other sources of, we call them as other sources of revenue. And if we came and stand on our revenue side, particularly tourism, as Randilen WMA, we have 3 main gates. And these gates is where all the visitors, tourists who are coming or visiting our WMA are coming through.
Where we are is the main gate, and we call it Boot Gate. And we have the other gate at the southern part, where it's known as Boundary Hill Gate. It goes the name of the boundary because it's just nearby the National Park, Tarangire National Park. So we are bordered with Tarangire National Park. So the gate is Boundary Hill Gate. And again, in the west side, we have another gate. We call it Tamarind Gate. Tamarind Gate. And all these, there are 3 gates, is where our clients come through, as I mentioned earlier. And again, within this area, we have investors, as introduced earlier. We have almost 6 active investors. The model of a revenue, how are we getting revenue from this particularly tourism activity? As WMA, we really don't collect cash, but rather what we do is to monitor the tourists that are coming in by ensuring that we inspect the permit that they come with at the gate. Because at every gate we have clerks who really their work is to ensure that they inspect the permit, because every client come in must have a permit. And those permits are generated by the government, generated by the natural resource of tourism, and whereby as Randilen we have the access to that system. So once the client or tourist come at the gate, he shows the permit, and we cross-check from the system whether the permit is valid and whether the number of clients within the vehicle is equivalent to the number of tourists within that permit. So is that how we work? And once the government collected the money, so everything goes. So what we see here is just papers. Once the government collected all the money, we receive a distribution in terms of percentage. That 60% of the gross revenue, there is a distribution that the government takes. Central government takes 30%. Central government goes to the central government, 30%. And 5% of the gross revenue goes to district level. And the remaining, which is 65%, comes back to Randilen WMA.
That is great.
65%.
65%?
Yes.
Comes back?
Yes, comes back.
That is great.
Is that?
And once we receive that 65%, we just term it as 100% received. So based on our constitutions that lead us, we take it as 100% received, and 50% of that goes to the normal community. That's the community which is set aside this land.
50%.
50%.
From the 65%.
Or you can take that 65% divided by 2, you get sometimes 32.5 maybe.
Which is okay.
Yes. So 65%.
No, let's go
To the local community.
100. You are
Like now
100%.
the community surrounding
Can
the
we take like that?
Yeah.
Okay, we take it as 100% received, that's 65.
Yeah.
And then that 65, 100% divided equally.
Yes.
50-50. 50% goes to the community. As we said that, the other person here from the ministry said that it's very difficult to tell people that conserve this, but they don't see benefit. So benefit is one of the things that can make people to value conservation. So that 50% which goes to the community is whereby they invest into their development project, like building nursery schools. Many of the villages, if you find some times to visit them, you can witness. Again, other into water, invested into water, just see from the money from the WMA. And for the whole period, for instance, if you make at from 2016 and after 2021, just see a maximum of 5 years, the gross revenue collected was 1.7 billion. That's the shillings. Yes, 1.7 billion. And half of that, 65% of that comes back to Randilen WMA. And 50% of that which is about 500 million shillings going to the community.
Those for development projects.
Yes, yes, for their development projects. So you see, there's a huge benefit that the community is getting just by setting this site, this area for protection purpose. And again, the other source of revenue, as I mentioned, or stream of revenue, as I mentioned, is from private parts. Yes.
What about the 50%?
Well,
The remaining 50%.
The remaining 50%.
Thank you very much.
Half
Thank
of
you
the
very much.
65.
It is for Randilen.
The remaining part
Administrative
of
costs.
100%, which is 50, is for operational activities, including patrol, including paying salaries for the VGs, including fuel, and all. There are so many to mention.
Okay.
Yes, so many to mention. So is that what 50% work for? Is that clear? Yes. Okay, thank you. And let's go back to the other stream of revenue, which is private. Private, or sometimes we can call them donors. Actually, in a tourism revenue, it has a lot of challenges because it takes long time for the government to bring back that 65%. It takes time. So you find out that without this private sector, it will be very difficult to manage the area. Perhaps you couldn't even find Randilen WMA here without them. So these are the most important people that we have. And these, if I have to mention them as Randilen, we have almost 2 active donors. One being the nature conservants. It's really supporting us in areas of protection. They're investing really in areas pertaining to protection, paying salaries, and all that issues related to protection. They're really supporting us. Because we all remember that where we came from in tourism issues, that we got a huge problem across the world, COVID-19. It has really hit tourism. And from 2019, 2021, it was a very hard time for this small community-based conservation because there was no tourism at all, and we depend 100% to this private sector. Yeah, they were supporting us for everything, everything. So we have the TNC, as I mentioned, supporting protection part, but also we have Honeyguide Foundation. These are really good people. They're also supporting in terms of management capacity building. They are doing all that. They are really supporting us on that part. The other stream of income, as I said earlier, that we have other income, and those are small fines. Because we told that here we have rangeland, and we have bylaws that guide people how they can progress their livestock there. And once they go against the bylaws that we set aside, there must be penalties. And those penalties, once we receive, we turn them as a source of finance or other source of revenue. Yes, we have the intruders, those people who are not members, part of the community that has set aside this land. Those intruders, we penalize them when they bring their cattle inside. So those are also fine. Yes. If you are not part of the community set aside the land and you bring your livestock in, you have to be penalized. So that's revenue to us. That before Corona, we was roughly receiving no less than 5,000 tourists within the area. But during Corona, it went down and to the maximum of 100 visitors. From 4,000, 5,000 and above visitors to 100. It was really a huge It was really a huge fall. And from now, starting from 2021, 2022, the year we are, tourist is coming up again. We see the number is increasing again. So you see, that's how we work as Randilen, and that's how finance department is, and that is how we work in finance department.
The question of sustainability for the WMA is still in question. It's not only for the WMA, even for the national parks, it's still in question. Why? Most of the national parks depend on tourism only. They don't have the other businesses. And we have witnessed that during the Corona era. All the national parks authority collapsed. They don't have even money to pay 1 month operation. Yeah. That is an indicator, show us that we don't have a sustainable plan at all. For the WMA, it's like nothing. There is no such a kind of a plan. Because we have been also depend on the government to pay us the money and divide to the community, they remain for others operational. So we as Randilen, we have an idea today to develop what we call it a sustainable plan. And we have started together with Honeyguide to develop a sustainable plan. And our sustainable plan goes beyond tourism money. And one area where we are trying to focus in is about carbon credit. Yes. Carbon credit has been a good source of revenue to some part of protected area in Africa. In Tanzania, we have one WMA who has a carbon credit project. They are earning millions and millions of money per year. Randilen, we have started with TNC to come up with what we call it a soil carbon credit. We hope through that soil carbon credit will earn a lot of money, and that's why we are saying the issue of rangeland management is a key, because the moment you protect your rangelands, the more you will get soil carbon money. You see, that is the area we are concentrating. Another area of concentration is harvesting grasses. Harvesting grasses, we mean what? We need to harvest grasses, and then we sell to the outsider grazers who need the grasses. That is the way also we are thinking like we'll get a lot of money, because 90% of the entire population in this ecosystem are pastoral placed. So that is another area where we hope it will make us to generate our money directly without depending Another area, you said the lodges. Of course, what we have and what we are developing, the area you spent a night yesterday, where we are accommodating you, that campsite is belong to the WMA. Okay. And that is the way where the WMA try to engage to these businesses, especially to generate money and to own the lodges and something like that. Of course, there is a challenge is owning the lodges. What is the challenge? The customers of these areas are not the local. They are from outside. You see? And sometimes if you say you have your own lodge as Randilen, the issue of marketing, the issue of the customers becomes the problem.
Yeah, you can't.
And again, even the government, they don't want to own lodges. They don't want completely to own lodges because they know the challenge. You'll spend much time in losing. The issue of minus, the principle of mathematics, minus and the plus and multiply and divide, will apply.
That is true.
And again, of course, our country is Ujamaa countries. We call it a socialism country. We tried to practice it 1962 until today we have. But most of the government project, the government even factories has failed. Most of the government lodges has collapsed. Why? I don't want to go in detail.
You also tried.
So, sustainability issues, we have an upcoming plan which will address more about our future, our survival without tourism.
On the 50% that we receive and remain here, after distributing 50% to the community, 10% of all the money that we receive, out of 50% goes to the reserve funds. That also make as part of the plan for sustainability. That I just wanted to mention that because I see it is lettered out.